Guys, we did it. We finished 3 seasons of The Bear in 14 days. Stay tuned, because we're about to blow your fucking mind about how little we comprehend of anything. Welcome to the Dave Chang Show, part of the Ringer Podcast Network, presented by Majordomo Media. Thank you, Yola Tango. As always, you are watching and listening to us on Spotify, YouTube, maybe in the future, some other places as well. Mm-hmm. It is a reality. Podcasts are going video, and we have some special things in the works, and we don't even know exactly what the fuck's going to happen there. But I'm joined with Chris Ying. We've done season 1 recap of The Bear. I love first episode. Season 1 is still the best in my opinion. And if that's all you watch, that's all you might need to watch too, to get a sense of what the show's about. But not really. But I would say if you wanted to get, what I meant by that is if you want the best vibe, zeitgeist of what it might be like in a restaurant, that is the episode you go to. Season 2 is about the transformation of the Bear and Chicago as a city. Season 3 is, how would you describe it, Chris? It is more of middle-aged adolescent.
Yeah, it is. It is the big. Sorry, I was sitting here thinking about the whole each season. I was thinking about you too. I feel like he's on the precipice of cooking, changing into something else for him.
What do you mean by that?
I guess here's the thing. If you haven't seen season 3, it's all, it's the restaurant's open, they're waiting for this big review. I don't see any way in which the Bear and Carmy explode into the stratosphere.
So, for sort of organizational purposes, we're going to talk about they make a list of non-negotiables. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to deep dive into some of the topics of the Bear. Some things where maybe someone might disagree is just what ifs. Like, what if David Fields, the chef of Empire, is not as bad as you think? What if Carmy is somebody that I personally would never want to work for? Not because he's not talented, but could drive me fucking mental for other reasons that are not expressed on the show. And I think our good friend Brian Kopelman might be the MVP of the season.
The computer.
There's a ton of cameos, but Brian, and here's another deal. Brian, I lied to you. I didn't see really anything. I saw bits and pieces of the last episode that you're in, and I didn't really lie. I just didn't know what was happening. I was like, why is Brian on the show?
You just had to assume
I know. Now I know.
That's so funny.
And then we're going to maybe do a deep dive forensic analysis of the economics of the Bear. We'll do some other deep dives, and then we're going to do an Ask Dave. All right, let's get started. So, I don't know, early episode, season 3, Carr makes a list of non-negotiables as he, again, for those that haven't listened to our previous reviews of season 1 and season 2, it's hard for me because a lot of things that are not just me. I would assume a lot of chefs in this kind of restaurant where it's a real fucking massive dose of narcissism. There's just no other way around it. It does attract a certain kind of person. Basically, it's like I know what he's thinking. He's like, in theory, I want to share the power. I believe in democracy, but I'm a good despot. Things are better, and maybe a benevolent dictatorship is the better way to run things. And he has now convinced himself that he's still operating in democratic theory, right? But it's really just not even it's just a dictatorship. And I'm not saying that's not maybe it's not right or wrong.
Interesting. Your argument is The devil you know. I would rather just know that I am working under a despot.
No, I'm not saying the devil you know. It's like I can relate to that. It's like it's what Paul Carmichael always says. You burning clean versus burning dirty fuel. He knows that he's got to burn clean, but he's got a V8 engine and it fucking works. And he's like, why do I want to go to solar? This is an effective way of me working. And even though that's clearly not the case, one of the things that I'm sure other creative fields can have a healthy dose of is, and chefs unequivocally so have, is the ability to convince yourself of anything. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, first couple episodes, it's Carm basically telling himself anything he needs to believe. That's what I think.
Yeah. I what I mean by the devil you know is I recognize this character. I've been some version of this character. I've worked for versions of this character who's like, I'm trying to build something here that's what is his main line in this non-negotiable, like vibrant collaboration or something like that. Like,
I got to say that some of these suggestions naturally I would have suggested, but when it does come to something like vibrant collaboration, I mean that can get fucked, right? No.
But at the end of the day, and you see it throughout the season when Sid is trying to work on the menu together, there's only one boss.
And, before we get the negotiables, just it's a history lesson. And I've had my failures in this too. It's not because we didn't like each other. It's just very difficult. Any kind of creative partnership is very difficult, right? That's why bands break up. That's why Garfinkel is just art. Garfinkel. I call him Garfinkel.
He's half Garfunkel, half the enemy from Ace Ventura.
It's just, if you're a fan of something, it's hard for you to sort of understand why. Even Hall & Oates broke up. It's like, why? Mm-hmm. It is a marriage in ways that marriages break up. You're like, why? There is no rhyme or reason. And marriages break up and you could still love the other person. It's just not what it is. Mm-hmm. Creative culinary partnerships are by far and away like overwhelming odds that it's not going to work out. And you can list in the top of my head, I can only think of like a handful that have worked, right? Lee Hansen, Rearden of Frenchette and La Roque and Le Cote Vaux. But those guys were like married for years, working under Danielle and then working under Keith McNally in New York, and they're the fucking best. And I think they just won a Beard Award for most outstanding restaurateur. And then you try to think like maybe that is the only one. And it's not just creative chef partnerships. Chef GM partnerships rarely ever work. Tom Colicchio, Danny Meyer, the list goes on and on. I've had my disagreements in the past. I love Kino Baca, but like we just couldn't make it work long term because people change. Yeah. But every special occasion, like we still catch up, we love each other, but it just doesn't work. Like he's my brother. That's just what it is, Mm-hmm. And it's so hard to sort of mend it. And when I see the relationship with Carm and Sid, I mean, it's clearly not going to work.
Well, it's not even, does it not work in this case also specifically because it's not a real partnership? They're not 50-50.
I mean, DocuSign, the papers, we learned later.
But I mean, she is... Like, there's a hierarchy still here. It's not a co-chef position.
Correct. And I've made this world for myself as well. As much, I always wanted to be communist. We're all in this on the same level, but it just never works out that way. So yeah, I understand the hypocrisy in that completely. But before we get to this, it's now clear to me now if we're doing win above replacements and we're buying stocks of people as Bill Simmons would buy in basketball players. I'm buying all the Marcus stock humanly possible.
Marcus says everything right, man. And Marcus, when he's describing what his legacy is, and he's just like, keep my head down, learn, listen. Just like, yeah, dude.
I'm buying Marcus stock 100%.
Yeah.
I'm selling Carm. I'm shorting the shit out of Carm. I'm shorting the shit out of Sid. Neither of those are going to work. Like, I just don't think Sid has it. I don't think she has not just the presence, she has the intention, she has the heart, she has the integrity, but I think she misses the intangibles. But she's also a great teacher. She's the person you need to act as the glue. In some ways, she's more important than anyone else in the restaurant. And I could be proven wrong. I'm just, I might buy Sid if she's in an index fund, right? It's spread out with other things. But
I'm taking a risk in buying on Richie.
I'm buying Richie all day long too. You're right. Good call. Richie. I mean, to me, the best episodes are Richie-centric. But Carm for me, before, last thing, and we'll go right into negotiables, non-negotiables. When I found out that he made ketchup, I'm like, this guy's dead to me.
Whoa, that was like, that was shocking. When he was serving homemade ketchup out of the bear window, or the beef window, ooh, what are you doing, buddy? What
I was like, no. We are not making ketchup. Are you fucking kidding me? All right? Why don't we harpoon our own fish?
Right.
And why don't we grow our own flour?
Why don't we make our own iPhones at home?
Can we get a ceramics wheel? Because I think we should get a kiln and spin our own pots.
But it's like, it's even worse than that because, like, okay, maybe there's something interesting or bespoke about a homemade ceramic. You can't.
You're not good. Nobody's good enough to make your own ketchup. Nobody can beat Heinz 57. Nobody. So for that, I thought it was so funny, made me also angry. And immediately then, that's when I learned, I was like, oh, gotta not buying any more of these. Sell. Sell. And all day long, I'm buying Marcus stock because if I had a bet on who's going to be the most successful, it's Marcus all day long.
Yeah.
It's a person you're not expecting. Carm. Also, I'm seeing Carm's food. I'm not inspired. It looks beautiful at all.
We got to get into
doesn't have his point of, anyway, I'm going to shut up.
We'll spend some time on the food. Let's spend some time on the food. Let's get into non-negotiables first, but we got to spend some time talking about the food we're seeing. First of all, let's talk about this non-negotiable list. This is not for anybody who's not in the industry. Like, maybe this is a novel thing, but this is what?
Yeah, this is just a lot of this is standard. So,
but restaurants have lists.
Yes, they do, but they're protocol. I was given a giant tome of like a big ass binder, like really big binder where the circles are like this, and you're just like, that's like hundreds of pages in there. This is your employee manual.
Oh my God.
Right? And I sit down at the chef's office, and he's like, make sure you read this. Okay? This is yours. He's like, well, this is my employee manual. And he gives me a folder, and in it was a sheet of paper, and it's just like 12 rules. He's like, you need to read this. You need to know this. All right.
So the first one is like, here's your HR handbook. Here's what you really need to know.
Yeah. It's like, fuck, this is bullshit. If you fuck this up, you're dead.
Yeah.
And it was like rules to be successful, you know? So maybe I was influenced this to some degree, but like, I mean, nobody gives a shit about, regardless of your field. You don't want to read the company HR handbook, which is what that was. I was like, thank God, chef. Thank you. Direct and to the point, and this is what it is. So, yeah, it works. It exists. And whether it's actually written out or it's passed through oral tradition like a religion, like this is what is real.
But oftentimes they are written out and distributed in this way. It's not just for the bear.
But it's also more indicative of the kind of culture that you have in your restaurant. So some restaurants are like the Oakland A's in the 70s. Do whatever you want. Facial hair, who gives a fuck as long as we win. Others are the Yankees. Clean and tight, no facial hair, no fucking odors. I don't want to smell cigarettes on you, like nothing. Like it is a monastic order, right? So yeah, a lot of this stuff is things you don't need to say. So again, shirts perfectly pressed. A lot of times that depends on the restaurant you're in with the linen company. One thing to note is for those that are watching this show, the blue apron is designated as like an apprentice prep apron. And it could also be done as black and white pinstripe. That was made very popular by Market Pierre White. And when you get into service, you get in your full like regalia, right? It's usually white on white with, a white apron. And as you can see, like with Carm and Sid, like then they work service in pure whites and then they change back into a blue apron and just t-shirts because you're trying to keep your chef whites clean as fuck because, they're nice. I used to have a lot of them. I don't know any of them are. Personal hygiene, that's like a no-brainer. Breaking down the boxes before putting them in a dumpster, oftentimes that depends. There's a restaurant role depending on the size of your restaurant. This kind of restaurant, honestly, I think Fax should be it. Maddie Matheson, who A lot more Matty in this season. Also MVP.
Scene stealer.
Brian Koppelman, Matty Matheson, MVPs. I would like he sort of is like the porter, right? And the porter that handles shipments and deliveries, and you break down boxes, right? Or crates or wood or whatever. Sometimes chefs do that, cooks do it, but for the most part, depending if you're working a big restaurant, you don't have time, you're not doing that. Smaller restaurants, you're breaking down everything. And the reason you need to break down boxes is like every day you might get like 100 boxes. And if you don't take the 10 seconds to break down the box and put it flat, you're going to cause a traffic jam. And it always goddamn happens. It's a massive pet peeve for chefs or anybody that works in the restaurant. You're like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah.
And to put it away properly.
I was going to say the breaking down boxes before putting them in a dumpster was as much metaphorical as not, but I actually think it's more literal than anything. Like this is probably like just huge cardboard boxes, and restaurants, especially in big cities, are so tight for space. Like I think it is, yeah, it's about details, it's about caring, it's about like follow through, but it really is literally about break down the fucking boxes.
All right. Change the menu every day. Like, you know, on a macro level, we got to talk about that in general.
We got to talk about this in more detail.
It does. Every good restaurant, the menu changes every day, whether you realize it or not. The menu might not change, but the menu changes every day. Right. So in order to say that, I mean, it's like, whatever. I was like, that's stupid. No offense. I just think it's stupid. Carmy, you're stupid. Right? No surprises. Like, no. Know your shit. Again, redundant.
What about no repeat ingredients?
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. I mean, you can. You do, but it's a matter of if it's a garnish, it can't be the same garnish. Nothing can be the same manipulated product, the same technique. It has to all have different techniques.
Right.
That's my personal opinion, but some people refuse to have anything that is the same. The real mastery of a menu that it's a degustation is one flavor or a thought or a color or a flavor. I've already said flavor, or some ingredient that acts as a thread between the previous course and the next course. And when you are able to do that, that is God tier. You're God tier. You're a fucking demigod.
Right.
If you can do that and create some kind of fluid poetry out of food, which, believe it or not, can be done, that's like so impossible to do.
Well, and again, I'm eager to get to the food eventually, because like that seems to be one of the most missing things here, like that sort of linking between anything in this.
Well, it's hard because again, like this is the TV show and the writing, and I just thought about it from that perspective. It's like you can't do that, but also in this vein where they're searching for it. When you're grasping for it, it's like anything under a deadline. If you don't have anything to say, it's going to be forced together. And without a doubt, just looking at the food, I have no idea what the review is going to be. It's going to be disjointed. There's no fucking, like every dish should be the line of narrative of what Marcus did with the Mikey, like the cannoli, the savory cannoli, like that. Should be like, if you're going to have a menu, it should be that through everything. The problem is to change it every day. For example, Pascal Barbeau, L'Ostrance changes the menu every day, but there's a lot of the patterns that are the same, right? So you're not changing like the poultry course to, I don't know, like wildebeest or something like that, you know?
I wish more restaurants would just do that.
You know, it's like the patterns are the same,
sure,
and you just change it out. But like that's not always true. That's simplifying it. It's not.
But the no repeat ingredients in this context is like, we can't have the same. We put lemon supremes on this dish, and then we put them on this dish, and we put them on this dish. Here's the same garnish. Here's the same, beet puree, whatever.
I just seen the situation, been in that situation where you're forcing it because you're so thirsty to get it done. It just doesn't have the same vibe as, like, again, whenever you see a chef open up their restaurant or is the first time someone in the organization is putting their own menu out there, it's always probably going to be the most personal, right? And when you're just making ideas, again, this is just my opinion, I don't think it normally works. You need to have some kind of governance and boundaries in order to work against so things become a coherent thing. No, you should. I guess the next one, technique. There's nothing here that is like crazy. These are all, everything in here is a given that you're supposed to do.
I agree with that. Do you think, I can think of a couple things I would feel would be missing from this list.
Okay.
I mean, this bears some resemblance of the way we talk about things. I would say this list is so focused on detail and perfection. There isn't much room in here for
critical thought,
mistakes, learning, risk-taking.
But why would there be? Carm's still like 25 years old.
And I think that's the problem. I think like this list is interesting because it's like, this is actually not a very good list if you're trying to get to where you want to get.
I think in 2 years and more failure and more hardship, unfortunately, or not, just life, it changes a little bit.
I think so for sure.
This is the issue when it's such a rare thing when a super young chef is able to just have mastery of everything. It just rarely happens, if at all.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a savant genius and make a menu that is like amazing and beyond comprehension to most other chefs and cooks that are working there, but it's the consistency that makes it an issue. And more often than not, like, you don't really get to be a truly great manager of people till after you fucked up a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's you're spot on. It's all about the micro. There's no macro.
Yeah. And not building
teamwork. There's no accountability.
Exactly.
There's no I got your back. There's no like, at Momo, the sort of the biggest sort of thesis that we would preach upon everybody is like, besides the score takes care of itself and shit like that, it's like we encourage failure.
Mm.
We're hoping to be the very best though.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't want to land in between.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, and it's everything is team oriented. So that was like what we were always trying to build, but that wasn't like day one. I was like fucking 10 years later, we're like, oh, this is what I think is a better sort of commitment to an idea for us.
Well, I think it is about maturity. It takes that long to be able to articulate that. Like you can sort of try to encourage it and bang your head against the wall trying to tell people what you're trying to say, but it takes a while to encourage that. Do you think there are any restaurants in America that have printed out this list and put it on the wall?
No.
I bet there is.
Before we get into the deep dive on some of the topics, I have to talk about a lot of the cameos. I mean, it's weird.
It's very weird. It's super weird.
To see Renee right off, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Dave Barron, in a good way. I'm just, it's just different.
It's just very weird to see your friends show up in this show.
Dave Barron used to be the CDC at Alinea, and he ran Next, and he now has Pastrelli and Celine, which is the tasting menu in Santa Monica. One of the very best out there. You have a whole host of chefs in here towards the later end of the episodes. You got, basically all our friends, Tosi, Livingston, Malcolm Livingston's on there, Will Guidera, who's a producer on this season.
Wiley cracks a little joke.
Yeah, Wiley Dufresne. And a few others.
Mm-hmm. In both just like sort of pictures as well as.
Well, it was also weird for me because like, not just because you see people like, oh, I've literally been that person.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird to see the hallways of Danielle.
Yeah.
You know? And the kitchen to me was always set up, not weird, but it's just like, it makes it, you're just shoulder to shoulder. And then to see Daddy Balud, I love him, but it's just also like, it's weird. So weird. And like, it's clearly like he didn't work there. He's a stash.
Mm-hmm.
Not a chance in hell Danielle's taking his time to teach a stash.
I was going to say, like, there's so many.
Danielle's amazing.
Right.
But highly doubtful one stagiaire. Let me teach you how to make my signature papillote in sea bass and papillote, which, it's amazing. I understand. I'm just saying it's a TV show. I get it. But part of my cookness element and the fact that I've lived that life is like,
well,
it just felt weird. I was like, oh.
It's also just not how dishes are made in a restaurant. It's not made start to finish. You don't show somebody like, let's make the dish one piece at it, like a classic dish like that. Like the components would have been prepped.
It's an awesome kitchen. It's one of the great, and he's one of the greats, and I love him dearly. And it would be fantastic. It's the fact that he's gotten personal attention from every chef that he's ever worked at, right? Yes, it has to happen this way because of the show. In reality, probably doesn't happen. In reality, you know, there's so many stagiaires.
Yeah.
It's quite possible that Carm was doing such a good job as a stage, and I'm just portraying a real possible example. Happens. Danielle's there. He's in the skybox because you can see there's a table and you can see everything in the kitchen. And he's like, oh, that guy's moving fast. That guy's clean. He's never being sort of not yelled at, but like criticized. Like you pick up patterns, and if he's there for like a month or so, you're like, oh, who's this guy? You earmark. It's pretty easy to tell. Like if you're a scout and you're watching like, you know, Slovakian basketball and you're seeing a high school like all-star game, you're like, well, that person's fucking good. Pretty quickly, you're going to earmark that person. So from chef's perspective, it'd be like, that guy, clearly because he's good and he's fast, you're going to earmark and be like, I'm going to go out of my way. You're going to talk to, you know, one of the sous chefs. Like, oh, his name's Carm. He comes from Chicago. You know, he spent time at Ever and he staged at the French Laundry. And you start being like, oh, this guy's fucking, let's earmark him. Let's push him up. This could happen if Danielle sees like, oh, I'm going to show him. Thank you for staging with us. Thank you for your hard work. Let me show you my signature dish. I'm just like, now I'm thinking this actually happens.
I think that the thing is, this would be a special moment in a stage after you've put a lot of hours into just. And I know
grinding. This because this happens. It happens with me. It happens with other restaurants. Everyone does it. I was just in that moment. It was just like, it's hard for me to say like that's not real.
Well, I think the reaction is like, dude, this guy has gotten time with every single high-level chef ever to walk the earth.
That's sort of it.
Like, how did this fucking guy get to spend time with every single chef?
And it goes back, if he's that good, everybody was trying to work for him.
Yeah, exactly. I think my favorite cameo is this, though. Do you remember this moment? At the funeral dinner in that last episode for Ever, Carmy's walking in. There's like the sort of scrapbook photos on the wall of every chef who's passed through the kitchen, all the sort of friends and family. You know, a lot of our friends are on this wall. Did you catch the photo of Bradley Cooper among the chefs? Like very, very good.
Very funny. There's a lot that happens in this season. I think it was very difficult for me. Just anytime there's like suicide in food, I just think it's fucking hard. And I think it was a very emotional, good job of filming stuff. And not just that, there's just like, I've had so many people die by non-natural causes in the food world that it sucks. And I was trying to get a sense of his career, Carmy's career, 25-ish, mid-20s. So there's a lot in this season that allows you to sort of fill in the holes because we had no idea from season 1 and 2. So he works for McHale is her name, the chef at Ever. I can't remember. Andrea Terry there. So he works. They never really cooked at the beef.
He never got to cook at the
So I'm trying to figure out when his first job as a stagiaire is at French Laundry. So he's probably like 18, 19.
Yeah.
And then he gets a job working at Ever, and it's where he meets Will Poulter. And the whole peas thing, I mean, again, I have to turn off like real life brain. It's like, you're not going to shuck peas in a giant Lexan that high. This is where this is a perfect example of stuff that has to happen for TV. When you're doing mad fast, whether you're picking seeds, or you're shucking or whatever, it's all efficiency of movement. And the reason I can just tell you why that's never going to happen in a real kitchen is you're going to be picking your peas and then you're bringing it up. You want everything to be like, so then you have a smaller bowl and then you dump it into the bigger bowl. But that's not going to really, that's hard to express that. This is a perfect example where I would have fucked it up and stores great at this because I can't do that. I would have to be like, no. It has to be like this. And I would never even think about, just put a fucking giant Lexan and it's easier for people to see how fast someone is versus somebody else. These little moments where like, these guys are so good. And I understand. But these are the little things that real professionals would be like, well, truth be told, we would have a quart container, and it would just be these little seconds would be faster. So like, you know how you see how he's faster than Will Poulter's? If my setup was that way, I would have 2 fucking buckets done.
You're just not showing my other bucket.
Are you fucking dumb? I'd be like, do you want to take a break? Because I'll do yours for you. Because how stupid are you that you keep on the efficiency of movements like this? Like, what are you doing, dude?
It's having to bring your hands up for that. It's half second. Literally every single one adds up.
But these literally quarter seconds, half second add up. When you're doing shucking pea sucks, man. You know how much time it takes to shuck a giant full Lexan or a tub of peas? So much time. And more often than not, guests don't even eat them. You know, it's so much work. So yeah, you know, you don't have, when your mise en place is that, and then you got to, you know, do brunoise for all this other stuff, and you're like, oh my God. And think about this. Probably there's 1,000 peas in a case. What's half a second times 1,000? I don't know. How many minutes is that?
Well, it's 500 seconds, so it's 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes.
That's a lot of time. It's a lot and you might have 2 cases to do. And more importantly, people may not realize that you saw the entire line of cooks doing peas. That was probably like eight cooks. This is where things start to add up, and it's like compound interest. And I tell this to other chefs when they're like, you know, I try to go in and help or talk about things like, why are you doing it that way, dude? And it's not about one person being slow or one person taking 2 hours out of their day. You aggregate that over a week. So now you have 8 cooks times 8. So that's a little over an hour right there between 8 cooks. Now you do that over 7 days a week during spring season. That's a whole fucking cook.
Yeah. It's a whole
So you have to be so mindful and efficient and not let your ego get in the way. Or as a cook, you may not understand why you need to move fast, right? Because you have to, everything you do, if you're good at, that's your personal best, your personal record. I always encourage cooks to time themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're a marathoner. It's like, I got to beat this by a second. Every day you got to beat what you're doing by a second, 2 seconds. And you just have to. You have to think that way. And from a sous chef or chef's perspective, you're like, oh yeah, why are we doing it this way? But sometimes you need to. And there's projects and mise en place where you have no choice and it has to be done that way, right? You have to double shuck things, and it's favas, which suck, right? Or it's like green almonds, which are the worst things to peel and clean. You know that in this season, it's why during spring season and early summer, your labor goes through the fucking roof, because you have so much more little shit you got to clean. And you may not realize same amount of labor, but now you have dishes that on paper now has added 4 cooks worth of work. But you're not getting more cooks. You're going to have to work faster. And that's the only fucking solution, which is crazy.
The spring menu also can't be 50% more expensive than the fall menu.
That's why this business is so fucking crazy dumb.
I do, you know, it's obviously that Chris Storer and the
56 hours of pea cleaning. If you do that for a week, think about it.
56 hours of pea
56
cleaning.
hours of pea shucking. I can't stress that enough.
The show does recognize that efficiency of movement when
it's almost 20 hours of overtime.
You're getting upset just thinking about.
Yeah, I'm getting fucking upset.
Shucking.
Jesus,
but
fuck, how stupid are we?
You know, there's 2 things I want to talk about here. Like, one, the show does recognize it. Remember, like when the boys come back to the bear or to the beef to run the window, and he's like, "Put the bag here, move it this way, move it this way." Like,
it's gonna go sandwich, napkin wrapped around the fucking sandwich in the bag to the fucking customer. Fast as shit. We're not playing around.
You're gonna put the bag right here, so you can do this shit. See how fluid that shit is? It's beautiful.
There's an efficiency of movement that is missing if you don't understand. And I remember, you know, because I think you should talk about this a little bit more for people who have never worked in a professional kitchen. I remember my very first day ever trying to prep something in a kitchen. I had no experience, and he was like, "Dice these onions." And I was like, okay, let me slice this one in half and take off the ends and peel it and I'll dice it. And he's like, my chef was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you do one, if you have to do the same motion 100 times, you do that motion all at once. You slice all the onions in half and then you move on to the next step. But it's like these little things that I don't think people who have never cooked in a restaurant know that, like, there's an efficiency.
Well, so let me set this up. And these are things that have not been covered in the bear. Maybe it has, and I haven't seen it yet. When you're doing prep, and again, like we just did this NASCAR thing, and the drivers are like, oh yeah, we only drive, the driving only like 8%. It's like 72% is doing sponsorship and all this other stuff. Cooking professionally in high-end kitchens like Ever, it's 85% prep and 10% cleaning, 5% cooking.
Yeah.
Right? And when you walk into a kitchen for the first time, whether it's your first day on the job or you're one of the veterans in the kitchen crew and a new person comes in, first thing you're doing, you hear a new cook's coming in. Hey, chef's like, hey, we got this new stage coming in. He's going to stage for us for a week, or she's going to be a stage for a week, and then maybe we'll see, we'll offer them him or her a job. Or it's like you have an extern and they're coming in for the first time. Whatever it is, whoever you are, you're judging right off the bat. Presentation. What kind of clogs do they have? Mm-hmm. I knew right off the bat, if somebody had the European clogs that you could only get in France, I was like, this guy's fucking, this girl, what the fuck? we got a professional assassin in the house. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's hard to explain. It's like, you're not getting Dansko clogs. These things you can only get in Europe. You're like, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right?
Some Sherlock Holmes shit right
Sherlock Holmes. If they have their own chef pants that are not the checks and they're like cool, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Pretty fucking cool.
But isn't it also the thing, though? It's like if you're going to rock all that, you need to like be able to back it up. Like,
well,
you
the
can't just
biggest
have bought
thing,
the cool
yes,
shit.
you have posers, but the thing is this. If they're new, and there are all these tells. If they're nice European clogs, right, where they're all wood on the bottom and it's just, you can't get them in America. And you see that they're worn in, like you could see that they've been worn. And the more you wear them, the better they are. But you can see they've been maintained and polished. You're like, this person is fucking, you don't have to look at anything else. Mm-hmm. I know that this person's going to be fucking good. The pants, you can definitely see posers, whatever. Then you see their knife roll. They put the knife roll. If it's the knife roll from cooking school they give you, you're like, get them the fuck out of here. Okay?
Yeah.
Get them the fuck out of here right fucking now.
Right.
On the other hand, if they have something that's like brand new leather and it's like too nice, you can tell it's not. If you see it's leather and it's worn in and there's nothing more beautiful than a worn in knife roll, and then they pull out the knives, and you see that it's been weathered and worn, and you see that, well, that clearly is now their boning knife, but it wasn't before. That was their yanagi or whatever. It's like, oh, you can see the work. When you look at the tools, it can tell you everything as like a forensic analysis. And that's what you're sort of looking at. You want to see like, what knives do they have, right? Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of people that come in and they have all the Nenox and all this other shit. And you're like, you don't know. What are you doing? You're a poser, right? And there's other people that actually have not the nicest stuff, right, at all. And so first thing you're judging is like, what do they have? And some you could just say like the demeanor and how they're. Plenty of people don't have anything that's super soigné and super nice, right? It's their fucking swag. It's their swagger in the kitchen. You're like, you can just tell, right? And you can tell how they walk in. First thing they do is they notepads out and they're asking questions where everything is. They're like, okay, all right. Hey, do you know where the family meal section is? Do you know where the supplies? And they're writing everything down. You see that? You're like, well, pretty good, pretty good. Right. And then they're like, they know when to ask questions. Right. So maybe they're observing the fish cook and they're like, they know that he's doing a pickup. They know not to ask these stupid questions. They're going to wait where the fish cook is like, wiping down the station. Then they're going to ask. It's little things like that where you from across the kitchen notice. So, they're writing things down, And the other thing is They just are like organized. They get the towels, and it's just everything organized. They have the right pen. They have the right marker. They know how to tape things properly. Mm-hmm. All the stupid things that a greenhorn doesn't know, you can tell right off. It's as clear as fucking day who is a poser and who isn't. And the reason why you want to oftentimes hire from certain kitchens, it's like why certain football teams want to hire from Alabama or whatever. It's like they know, because they won the SEC, they know a certain brand. You don't have to explain things to them. It's one of the better reasons to work in super ambitious dining rooms, because it's an easier calling card to get hired from somewhere else. Anyway, and then it's just like when they're cutting stuff. So going back to, it's cutting and it's mise en place. So if somebody doesn't know, if you're right-handed, right, and you have a box of peas, right, you have 1,000+ peas, right, do you have a trash can here, or do you have some bin right here, like another metal bowl? You have your refuse, so the whatever you're throwing away, right, and then do you have the thing that you're shucking in? So it's like, are you creating a little assembly line for yourself?
Right.
Right. And then you see it's like, oh, after 5 minutes, even though it's clean, put it in the trash can. You're like, well, this person is a murderer in a good way, you know? And then it's like, okay, then if you're doing knife work, that's a real test of like, there's no hiding this. If you have shitty knife skills, you are not a good cook. There's just no way around it. And if you're wondering, well, that's not true. Well, in this way, it is. Like if you are a 100-meter sprinter and you can't sprint fast, you are not going to be a good sprinter. It's just simple as that. If you have shitty knife skills, you're not going to be good at cooking. There's just no way.
Yeah. It's probably more like if you're a wide receiver and you can't run a 40, like you're probably not good at being a wide receiver.
Correct. And when you are setting up your station, you're cutting, and whether you're shelling peas or whatever, you are constantly looking at how good everyone else is. Mm-hmm. It is competition time. Even if you're with everybody that you're friends with, right? There's no new cooks. This is when it's the fucking best, when everyone is a stone cold murderer in the kitchen, right? And it's now just, we're all prepping. It's mad shit talk. It is so much shit talk. And that is the glorious time to be in a kitchen, when you are just plowing through a mise en place and you're doing your very best to hurt someone's feelings, right? And at the same time, you're like, you're looking, you're like, you push. And that's how you get better too. You're like, no, man, like last week, this person was smoking me and now I got to.
It's interesting because this whole season of The Bear, obviously this is a restaurant in total turmoil for all sorts of different reasons. And there are no moments of that, of sort of like, there's only a couple, like Tina and Ibra give each other a little shit. And you're like, oh, that's the first sort of healthy interaction I've seen in this restaurant this entire time. Other than that, people are hurting their feelings in like a very
but again,
intense
how's
way.
Store going to do this, right? This is the shit that you and I would make a terrible fucking TV
No, but
show.
I just mean you can see there's no joking around in this kitchen at any point. Like it's not a healthy place at the moment.
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
You know, so the two big pillars of this season to me, outside of all the kind of family drama and everything happening with Sugar and her baby, you've got a critic coming in, and you've got the sort of pain point that keeps on coming up throughout the season is like Carmy says we got to change the menu every single day.
Right. So which one do you want to tackle first?
Well, I want to ask you this about the critic.
Mm-hmm.
So they find out the photographer's coming from the Tribune or whatever to take photos. Everybody's reaction is fuck.
Chef Sidney, why is Chef Carmen saying shit like that?
Because we're being reviewed.
Like tonight?
Like they've already been here.
Have you ever been, I don't know how to say this, excited to find out you were getting reviewed?
No.
Never.
It is.
Why?
Listen, I as a comp for feeling this, I mean, it's not on the level of like where you've been wrongly accused of a crime and you're waiting your sentence, like the verdict, and you know you didn't do it, and you're like, oh. I would imagine that's got to be the worst feeling in the world when you're innocent, but
the jury is gonna. You don't know what they're gonna say. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, that to me it's got to be the shittiest thing when you know you're innocent, right? Which was an Innocent Project, so important. Anyway, the only other comp I can give to you is for some people might be getting into college. I've likened this to like some mixture of college acceptance, asking somebody out on a date. It's a mixture of all three, and waiting for like an STD test. You know, something where you're like, fundamentally, whatever happens, something's going to change in a negative or a positive way. And if it is positive, it's like,
It's interesting. I'm picturing two boxers standing there at the end of a fight, and one guy being like, "I fucking did everything I could. I think I beat the shit out of this guy. I have to get my hand raised right now. It has to be. You have no fucking idea what's about to happen, and it could cost you
when
everything.
You're not in control, and you have to surrender to this idea that's the irony, is like this kitchen and any kitchen is all about mastery of control and domination over food, all of these things. Everything, and it's all up to chance. Maybe this person liked it, maybe it didn't like it, which is why it's such a fucking stupid way of doing something. But I have been, per se, when it got downgraded to 2 stars, famously didn't pick up when Pete Wells was coming in. It's usually, I've talked to critics too, as you have. One of the easiest signs that it's a restaurant that is in a good place is if they spot you immediately. Like, that's like, well, they're trained and things are happening here in a way that is good and sensible to some degree. There have been times we missed a critic, right, over the years. It's so hard sometimes. People might say, like, how did you miss it? Like, they missed Adam Shapiro, the chef de cuisine at Ever. That shit happens. I hate to say it doesn't, but sometimes things slip through the crack because you're in the weeds or somebody's sick for the day that was going to work the host stand, and just whatever happens, it's Occam's razor. It's like everything bad that can happen will happen, and those are the days, almost inevitably, somebody important comes in and you just miss them. It's more in a closed kitchen environment, which is why I always like seeing the dining room, which is why it's rare that it happens, but it happens. And even if you do know when the critic's in there and they're dining, and one of the things that happens is you fire a ticket. I mean, this is what I've already seen too, just to alert everybody. It's like, Geronimo, it just comes out, table Geronimo. And you're like, fuck, game on, butter up. Make sure you reserve the nicest X, Y, and Z, or you might have a feeling. So every day before service, and this is unfortunately, we've talked about it before, like the money piece. So if let's just say you have a beautiful king salmon, like just by matter of fact physics, there's only like this much on each side of the fish that is like the best piece. So you could theoretically give it out to every single person, right? From 5 o'clock reservation or not. But what do you do with the collar portion to the tail portion? Well, as you start portioning out your fish and you put it in a low boil, you're like, okay, I'm going to save these bits, which are the same ounces as the soigné bits, for somebody to ask for well done. Okay?
Yeah.
And then you're trying to, and if you add in the fact that you're a new restaurant and critics are coming in, intuitively it's like, okay, I know if worst case scenario, I got another king salmon in the fridge and I can break that down quickly, but it's dry aging, whatever. I'm hoping I don't have to break into that, but if I do, I'm going to get a lot of shit because chef's going to yell at me because I told him we're good on the count. I told him we got 24 orders of fish. We're good, chef. He's like, you sure you don't have backups? And you say like, chef, we're good. And when you start going and you're not expecting it and you're just like, yeah, like 80 covers on the books and you're like, what the fuck, man? Like first 20 orders, tickets are all salmon. You're like, fuck. And then it stops. And you're like, I hope to God I don't have to break into that new salmon. I hope to God I don't have to break into that new salmon. And then like on the same time, you're realizing, wait a second, like chef and general manager has said, like, we're expecting a critic or a soigné table coming in. I got to reserve this one piece. right? So you're getting to the end, and you're like, oh, do I just give him this random customer the money piece, or do I wait?
Right.
And let's just say this is what happens. You give this random customer, then the critic comes in, you're like, fuck. Fuck.
See, like that just makes me upset at like the very fact of critics get to have the best piece. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like, that sucks.
Well, that's why you want to spot them.
What percentage of the time?
Now you're in the fucking weeds, and now everyone hates your guts because you were like went on a smoke break. You're like, oh, I'm good today, guys. And now you're like in the weeds because you're breaking down a fish, and it takes you 5 fucking minutes, and
everything's
you
fucked.
can never. It's like fumbling the ball on the goal line. You know, that's what it feels like when you let your team down when a critic comes in the house and you don't have the right piece.
Ballpark for me. What percentage of the time does a restaurant, an ambitious restaurant, make the critic when they walk in the door?
A good one, 99% of the time.
So critics are not getting away with their anonymous.
No, but they're
whatever.
getting better with disguises.
Sure,
you
I
know?
guess.
But at the same time, maybe the game is this. This is a real fucking game. We're trying to make it seem that we don't know that we know that you're here. Okay? That's not covered in any book. Nobody's ever really, I think, ever talked about it. But it's a real fucking game.
Because the server doesn't come up and say, hello, Mr. Wells. It's just like, I'll play this game.
The whole thing is we're trying to make it seem that like we don't know that you're here. So you don't think that we're changing anything for you, Mr. or Mrs. Critic.
So critic sits down. You've made the critic. The game is afoot. You're not sending anything extra because that gives away your
There are some
hands.
badass times. I've always found them badass when the chef was like, you know, I heard Repair did that to Frank Bruni once. It's like,
welcome to the restaurant.
I think he says, I mean, maybe it's an apocryphal story, but basically Repair, who's the fucking best, was like, game on, let's go. You know, it's like, fuck off, let's fucking go,
like,
let's go.
Let's not play games, let's just do
let's
this.
just fucking, let's go. You know? And or sometimes like, there's been a critic in the past where they came in and I was like, I just gave them a look. I'm like,
Hey, what's up?
I was like, well, it's an open kitchen. What are you going to do? Like pretend I don't know you? It's like, you know, before you became a critic, we got drunk together. Fuck off. Like, so that is a big game, is to make sure that, and one of the bigger games happens is no matter what, like in any team sport, you're going to have someone that's better than the others. And sometimes you want to put the critic at the best possible table. And you want to put the best possible table. It's like hitting 3rd or 4th in the lineup in baseball. It's like, it's really shitty when they go to the table that you have no control over in terms of the flow. And now they're sitting with maybe the B team of servers. And you're like, oh, fuck. So this happens all the time where you're trying to do the calculus with the general manager. Like, can the top server fucking rotate across the room and cover fucking both? That's when shit gets swirly. So you're better off just leaving it as is.
Who do you think, in this case, so so Fax puts all the critic pictures up in the office. God, that must be a nightmare to have to look at all these fucking faces all the time. What a nightmare.
All the time.
Carm says, take him down, put him in a book up at the host stand because he's getting PTSD from the chef critic game. Who do you think in this team, I want to point fingers because it's a fictional team, who do you think's at fault for missing Shapiro and the critic coming in? Carm's fault.
100%.
Right?
100%. 100 fucking percent. It's all on fucking Carm.
Yeah.
100%. Because it's all been about him.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's something more telling than Richie's trying to turn that table. He brings the guest in the kitchen and Carm's in the middle of a fucking tire that doesn't even notice, can't stop.
It's
like,
not
he's just
learning, you know, I didn't know shit about Front of the House. You know, in a lot of ways I still don't, but now I'm like, oh, this is a team.
Yeah. Well, especially Carm, who is the only one who has experience at that level and trying to get this team up to speed. That's got to be on him to be like, you got to make the chefs, you got to make.
Unequivocally, it's on Carm's fault, nobody else's. The buck stops with him. So yeah, he fucked up. And he fucked up. It's a butterfly effect, because if they didn't have to juggle all the new dishes every fucking day, maybe they have better bandwidth to think about, you know, the vision of who's dining and where. So yeah, a lot of it is, and because we're going to get quickly into this because we're going to move on, goes into Carm changing the menu every day.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Which is, in theory, great. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of restaurants, not a lot. There are restaurants that have no menu, but like it's whatever's the best. Yeah,
I don't think that's what's happening here. The kind of restaurants you're talking about is, let's find out what comes in from the market. We'll figure it out. We'll make up the menu.
To do a new one every day, again, I don't know of any time that's not true. I kept on thinking about the great Michael Carlson in the early days of schwa in Chicago as somewhat of an analog to this show, because there was no fucking nothing. It was all off the cuff cooking. Mm-hmm. And that guy's a fucking genius. And he cooked in a way that, to this day, I don't think anybody has ever quite, especially that period of time. I mean, it was very unique and hard to capture and how to express what was happening. But restaurants like that burn out quick, too. It's hard. It's hard to change a new menu. Most importantly, no one's good enough to make that many dishes. Ferran shut down LBE 6 months out of every year just so he could perfect a menu for the season. Let me just double down on that. Nobody is good enough to have it consistently good, right? You might have people that change it up all the time for certain guests. Like, David Boulay famously would never serve the same menu twice to a guest coming in, but that's just to that guest, right? And that table of four. For the entire restaurant to get something new, you need continuity. Like when you are learning a new offense in sports or you're any kind of playbook or you're starting your first day of work at a new company, how are you supposed to know? So imagine every day I'm working, you're an accountant, but every day for the next month, I'm going to work at a new accounting firm. You're like, yeah, I know accounting, but wait, like, where are the bathrooms at?
Right.
How do you like your emails? How do you do this? How do you do that? It's all these little tertiary things that start to add up, and you have to start thinking about things in a way that is not food. You can't think, man. It's boom, boom, boom. And that's why, like, when you institute a new menu, it's almost like 6 months in, 4 months in, you finally get your groove, and then you change your menu. You're like, fuck, like, we just got in a good groove, or the seasons change. To do it every day is the height of fucking narcissistic stupidity in a way that, like,
pure hubris.
I can't even express how angry.
Well, so I think so. Carm says something when he first tells Sid that he's going to change the menu every single day, and he says something to the effect of like, "This is what great restaurants do."
No,
and I was like, "That's not true."
We're gonna change everything every day.
Yes. I made a list, Sugar.
Why?
So they can see what we're capable of.
I mean, it is true to the extent of
it
like,
is true,
hey,
but it's not true.
Hey, this ingredient came in today that's way better, or this ingredient's subpar that came in today. We need to adjust the dish. We need to change this. Oh, I have an idea. Let's improve this thing. But the idea that all great restaurants are just changing the whole menu just for the sake of changing it every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Carm being like a 19-year-old kid in the NBA first-round draft pick and being like, well, Michael Jordan did it this way, so I'm like Michael Jordan. It's like, no. There are a handful of chefs that are able to do this. But are you the very, very best? And more importantly, they have a whole team and a system and maybe their own farmer that are growing things specific, and they have knowledge about what might happen. It's never, even if it's improv, you just did improv. It's not just doing whatever the fuck you want.
No.
It's structured in it's like choose your own adventure in some way.
Yeah. Here's what I can't tell. I wonder if you and I can see what the average viewer sees here in terms of this food. Is the average viewer seeing the kind of cooking that Carm is doing here and thinking like, wow, that's like really impressive?
The food is beautiful, and to me, it also is soulless from Carm.
It's so interesting. I had this thought. The way they talk about menu development is like, okay, what are we going to do with the pasta course today? Okay, I thought we'd do the cavatelli. Let's do it with the beef cheek today. Okay, let's use the bordelaise on this. Let's do the blood orange over here. It's just kind of like components being rearranged for different dishes. And I had this thought. They play a lot of Weezer in this season.
Musical choice, amazing.
Musical choices are
Store nails it.
unfucking believable.
By the way, if you have any question about it, there's no better fucking TV show or movie that has a better soundtrack than what Stores is.
He's got a really good vision for this. It also speaks to our specific demographic really well. But I remember listening to the Song Exploder episode with Rivers Cuomo about Weezer, and Rishi, the host of Song Exploders, talking to Rivers, and he's like, "Oh, your lyrics. People get so attached to your lyrics with these songs." And as a kid who grew up being obsessed with Weezer, I was like, yeah, totally. We think, there's so much meaning to your lyrics, Rivers Cuomo. And he goes, I have a spreadsheet with phrases that I think are cool, where the emphasis is on each syllable and the number of syllables, and I just rearrange them into whatever thing makes a song. And I was like, that's devastating. And I thought about it, I was like, that's kind of what Carm is doing with his menu here. He's just like, I know a cool technique, I know a cool dish, I know a cool ingredient. I'm going to piece them together until they look like a dish.
Well, to me, just to tag along, and again, maybe we should talk to the writers of the show, which we should probably do. There are things that I can extrapolate and take from. So when Marcus says, hey, do you have a good caramel recipe? And then Carmen has to think, and he's like, yes, on the shelf, no New York notebook, blah, blah, blah. It's one thing to have the techniques. It's another thing to know why and how that technique was developed. It's another reason to know what that caramel recipe was created for. Maybe it was a little bit more burnt for the seasonality of that dish. Maybe they used iso malt because they wanted to make it a little bit sweeter. The whys and the explanations aren't coming from Carm. And again, maybe it's a TV show, maybe it's already happening behind the scenes. But to me, knowing Marcus, if so far as a viewer, I'd be like, Marcus needs the stories.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think Marcus is the counterpoint. Because I feel in my heart that Storer sees it, and that Carmy is heading for a reckoning with his menu, because you see with Marcus, he's like, I just saw this violet, state flower of Illinois, and that was my inspiration. I'm like, that's the only thing on this menu that makes sense on this menu.
That's why I'm buying all the Marcus stock. Marcus is going to be the superstar. There's no question in my mind. I have not talked to anybody about this. There's no question in my mind. Marcus is going to be the fucking one of the very best. Out of that kitchen crew, he's going to be the fucking best, because he gives a shit. Mm-hmm. He cooks with emotion. The best dish of the seasons is still his cannoli.
For sure. And I don't think...
Carm can't make that dish. Marcus can.
Well, what's interesting is I don't think, I can't remember a dish in this season or the last season that is distinctive. Like a distinctive Carmy dish.
So as a cook, I had to question this as myself. And for those that are professionals listening or those that are civilians listening, it's like... You may hear, this always goes back to my favorite line from David Berman, the late great David Berman, Silver Jews. And that line is, all my favorite singers couldn't sing. I love this. Mm. And you think about it, you're like, yeah, all my favorite singers couldn't sing. Mm. Like, wow, what the fuck? Mm-hmm. But what? Tom Waits can't sing. Bob Dylan can't technically sing. So here you have Carm, who has technique, experience, and has been cooking for several years at the very, very, very best. Here you have Marcus, been cooking a year and a half. Doesn't know technique. Can't fucking cannell with shit. Whatever. But he's got something to say. There's almost poetic in how he thinks about food. And the fact that nobody can sort of see that, I'd be like, what? Mm-hmm. I'm betting on that motherfucker all day long. Simply from, if I just saw, this guy just made that cannoli dish called the Mikey that was a merger of everybody's stories. I was like, you have something that nobody else has. It's a point of view. It's heart. It's imperfection. It's all of these things. And the world has enough Carms. We don't have enough fucking Marcus.
Taking it back, talking it out, I take it back. I think that I don't see how Carmy can succeed into the stratosphere. He has not said anything. And the fact that the beef is the only thing that makes money here, and
he doesn't. No, I mean, listen,
there's nothing to say.
Every chef that I know has been Carm. That's just something you have to know. Every chef that you read about has been fucking Carm. 100% we have all been this fucking guy. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of, do you grow out of this fucking phase or not?
Right.
And I don't think, maybe Carm does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Doesn't make him a bad person. Doesn't make him anything else. But the road to being fucking great is littered with technically perfect, amazingly gifted chefs. But like, I'd also take Will Poulter. I'd take any of these guys over fucking Carm.
It's it reminds me weirdly. The thing I'm thinking about is Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park when he's like, the scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could, they never stopped to ask if they should. And it is something of that nature, which is just like, can we do this? Can I do something crazy? Technique. Can I do it? I can physically pull this off. Why am I doing this?
I think you.
Why?
For me, I agree with that. I can see this where Carm is at. Right. Again, I've been in this stage. Maybe I'm still in this stage, but where you think you're delegating, which is why I started off by saying you can convince yourself of anything. He thinks that he's doing everything. Richie, you're in front of chargers, but he's like, he's not. He's changed the arrangement of the dining room.
He moved the flowers out of the way after Richie put them there. Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is, I think, the brilliance of what Store is doing. He's telling these micro stories that if you want to unpack, it's there. But again, where we would fuck up, we would try to tell every fucking story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I saw that, I'm like, he doesn't know how to give up control. And he's got to surrender. And the irony is he's going to AA meetings where it's all about surrender. And even though he doesn't have a drinking problem,
he can't.
He's got a control problem.
He's got a huge control problem.
So if I would say the only way I'm buying Carmy stock is if he learns to give up control, truly surrender to the idea that he has any agency over anything.
Well, what's weird is thinking about the AA thing of it all. Has Carm actually hit rock bottom yet?
No.
I don't think he has.
No.
I think when this restaurant fails, he will have hit rock bottom.
I mean, clearly the review's bad.
It has to be a bad review.
And then getting, no, it's middling, which is worse than
or
bad.
It's like technically sound, but, soulless.
I don't know. We've all been Carm. That's all I know. And, maybe he grows out of it. And there's all these things where you can sort of see, and we have no idea. But if there's many, many seasons of this, maybe Carm does. Maybe Sid learns to be dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. She has too much control in her own way. And it's almost like the Wizard of Oz to some degree. Everybody's missing one piece, right? Marcus is missing, I won't say confidence, but it's decision making, it's decisiveness, right? And part of it is he's lost his mom. It's like, are you in or you're out? Like, how fully committed? He's all these things, right?
It's so interesting because I'm zooming out now, and I think, like, you're right. There are all these breadcrumbs there leading you to see what this restaurant could and should be, right? Like, they have legacy. This was a place, and the boys from the Beef are like, dude, you're just forgetting about like the heart and soul of like this restaurant, why people came here in the first place. You just gave that because you wanted to play with this shiny thing instead. So it's a family business. There's all this motivation things they do have to say, but they're not doing any of it.
So let's play this out. If it is a Wizard of Oz, what is everyone missing? Richie, he's
got heart.
He's got heart. He's missing a brain.
He's missing a brain. He's missing a brain
in the sense that his heart does so many good things, but like he doesn't know when to like stop himself. Right? Sid, I think, is missing a heart.
Heart, or is she missing courage?
Courage.
Is it the same thing in Wizard of Oz?
She has courage. I think it's...
She's got a brain.
She's got a brain for sure. I think it's a heart.
All right.
Right? Again, for her, it's like it's in and it's out.
You're right. Because I think actually Carmy's the one missing courage. He can't face his demons head on. I forget who says that. Oliver Platt's character, Carmine, says or not Carmine, what's his name? Cicero says, you know how you avoid that? Fucking run right into it. He won't run into it. Like, he's suffered a lot. Don't get me wrong. He's felt a lot of pain, but I don't think he has the courage.
And Marcus is Dorothy.
And Marcus is fucking Dorothy.
Marcus is Dorothy.
Yeah.
Marcus is Dorothy. He is. Like, he's just, I'm along on this journey, and I'm along for the ride, and I know I'm going to be different when I get to fucking the end. Right?
Head down, listen, learn.
And you have other people. Tina is not, I mean, I don't know. What would Tina be? It doesn't work. This Wizard of Oz analogy doesn't work for everything. So, whatever. Anyway, let's take a quick break. We're back. Another thing I didn't like was Adam Shapiro poaching.
I'm going to open up my own place.
That's great.
Yeah, got the backers of ever, but I'm not, I want to start clean. I don't want to inherit anything. I don't want to cook every day, but I want to run it, and I want to hire a CDC.
Is he doing it the wrong? When he says, I would talk to Carmy about this, but I want to see if you're interested first, is that actually the path? No, you talk to the chef first.
It's not cool.
Just not cool,
It's not fucking acceptable at all. Adam Shapiro's fucking dead to me.
Yeah.
Fucking straight up dead. And the fact that it's not in under a year.
I was going to say, for a new restaurant to come in yeah.
And here's the deal. If Sid takes it, fuck her too.
Yeah.
She's dead to me. If Sid takes that job, she can go fuck herself. Seriously, unfucking acceptable.
I feel you.
There's got to be some decorum of no fucking way. I would be so pissed.
And I don't think it's enough to just be like, oh, I really love this family. She brings food to sugar and all this stuff. Still, it's like you don't do it this way.
I don't care, man. That's just not what you do. And Adam Shapiro, long term, fucking no. That guy can. I fucking hate this guy. Hate him.
So speaking of takes on these characters and strong feelings, you did promise us a David Fields take.
So again, I think thinking about David Fields, right?
Joel McHale's character
done a great job. We love Joel. One of my favorite episodes of the DTO. By far the best cook we've ever had on the show.
Most unhinged episode.
This is like, again, the brilliance, I think, of the show writing. How do you have a bunch of chefs that are all flawed and imperfect, but only talk about, but it's a show about a love letter to the industry. Everyone's David Field. All the chefs. Every chef is David Field. I don't give a shit who you think. At some point, everyone on that show that is a guest chef or a cameo has been David Field.
Meaning what? Been David Fields in what sense? Hard ass, driven for success.
Yeah.
Make people better, however.
In their
necessary.
own way, they have. It's some might be the worst version of themselves, or they've worked under a David Field, right? The funniest line to me, which is why I do think it's a fucking comedy. Maybe, again, people may not understand the comedy in this fucking show.
Well, I would say
which is why it's a fucking comedy.
I would say
I'm not a screenwriter. But
I would say the two poles are comedy and tragedy. It is a comedy for sure.
This is why it's a fucking comedy. And one of the earlier episodes with David Field where he just walks past and he goes, "Fuck you." I fucking laugh so hard because that's the realest shit that's ever been said. Just like walking past, like, "Fuck you."
It's just like a maintenance fuck you. It's just like a fuck you.
I fucking laughed and snortled out loud because it's like, whether you want to believe it or not, I assure you that has happened in the past. And I was like, that's the realest shit. Funny.
I think so. The very last episode, we've only seen David Fields in flashback, and it's always just been in the context of trauma for Carmy.
If he was that much of a dick face, he probably also wouldn't have been invited to the funeral.
Yeah.
Which he is. Listen, that's why everybody to some degree has been a David Field. It's the only way you can do this, right?
So Carmy runs into him at the dinner. And
not the funeral, the whatever. It is a funeral.
The funeral for forever. And which is funny because it's a real restaurant that's still around. But
Curtis Duffy's 3 Michelin stars.
So Carmy is like, I've been wondering what I would say to you. Fuck you. That to me, I had it was very complicated, watching this scene because I think you're right. This is a very real character because David Fields is like, fuck me. I made you who you are today through all of this shit. You think I don't know that?
You were an okay chef when you started with me. And you left an excellent chef. So you're welcome.
And he's telling him over and over, he's saying shit that he's probably never said. He's like, you're an excellent chef. You're a great chef. You know, and Carmy is just fucking like, what do I do with this? Because in that moment, the pain is real. The memories are fucking real, but also so is the realization like, holy fuck, did he make me great in this way?
I think when that happened, and when David Fields was sort of saying, again, complimenting him, I think Carm didn't listen to one of his own rules. It's not about you. Mm-hmm. And listen, all things aside about the industry, whatever, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, even Adam Shapiro, who can go fuck himself, like nobody's that much of a fucking heel. Yes, and that's not true. It is and it isn't, but like at the end of the day, you're doing it for something. And whether you can see the absurdity that it's food or not, and that it's art that you're going to fucking put into the toilet 8 hours later or not, Carm would have known this beforehand, yet he still worked for David Fields, right? Like, I think he's a composite of a lot of different chefs, you know? Mm-hmm. I'm a lot like David Field for sure. Keller, you know, even Andrea Terry, what's her name?
Andrea
Terry. Like, you could see that in her when she's fucking being, what the fuck?
You good?
Yes, chef.
You got this?
Yes, chef.
Are you sure?
Yes, chef.
Do you need me to finish it for you?
No, chef.
Yeah, she's like,
you know,
faster.
but she's doing it in her way. Mm-hmm. You're speeding somebody up. That's an indirect, like, I fucking suck. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm sure there are moments when she hasn't been that. When she talked about her when she was bankrupt and she found the space, you know, I'm sure when she was in her late 20s, early 30s, she was a fucking hard ass to work for. You don't become this distinguished, more patient person until you've gone through that too. It's just very difficult. I'm not saying it's not possible, very difficult. So I feel bad for Carm. I know what that feels like, and I'm sure there's other people that I've worked with that feel like I'm that to them too, which sucks, man. It sucks. You know, it feels really fucking bad. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh man, like in that situation, like 99.9% of people probably watching me like David Fields. Asshole. But you signed up for this. You knew what you were going to get. I'm going to make you fucking better. It's like a drill sergeant in the military is a motherfucking asshole.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like I'm thinking less about what the 99.9% of people who are watching it are, and I'm thinking about what Carmy's thinking in that moment. Because his big fucking moment didn't go the way he thought it would go. Right?
So how does it go?
He thought he would say like, fuck you traumatized me, you gave me ulcers, you ruined my life. And I think in his fantasy, David Fields says like, oh fuck, listen man, I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry. You know, I didn't know. Like, this is just how I was brought up, and you know, I didn't mean to pass that on to you. I think that's what Carm thinks. Just like, oh shit, you know, I'm being cowed by this conversation, and it absolutely doesn't go that way.
He's like, you're fucking great.
He's like, I don't even fucking think about you,
and I don't think about you.
Maybe though,
but he just said like, you're really great. You're good.
You're an excellent chef,
and I don't even think about you.
And I kind of remember your name. Like, fuck, dude. Maybe. I understand why Carmy's crying. And because he just got sunned with this moment. But I also think it's because, like, it's not so black and white.
And I can tell you this from watching Fields, and this is great writing again in one of the earlier episodes of season 3 when he's trying to teach Carm a valuable fucking lesson, which clearly Carm learns from. Addition through subtraction.
What the fuck is this shit? It's way too many components. Basically made nachos. You want to add another fucking sauce?
You know, yeah, Fields is a total fucking prick. Don't get me wrong. I'm not at all condoning him not being a fucking motherfucker. Mm-hmm. It's like, when he's like, you know, that's my dish now. And theoretically, he's right. Because you just changed it. How different is that than like being Jeff Koons or somebody that was like, I just remixed your song, and it's now my song.
Yeah.
Again, fucking dick face. But that is one of the most important fucking lessons to making a dish is like, why do you have that? What are you doing?
Yeah, what's the point of that?
So like in some ways, David is as important as Renee, Keller, all those chefs, because they're all that David too. You know, David Fields to some degree. They have been. It's just the way it is. But it's not like he wasn't learning. Yeah, I mean, made for TV, like him being a motherfucker. Don't get me wrong. Him being 100% a fucking asshole of the highest order. But
do you think? Okay, let me ask you this though. He made Carm a great technician, a great chef in some senses. But don't you also? I'm thinking of one or two chefs in real life who have worked for David Fields types and then gone on to open their places. And we've had these conversations about some of these chefs where it's just like, I wish we could get the ex-chef out of them. I wish they would stop being, they could do their own thing. I wish they would say their own thing and stop trying to live through like the same thing they did before. Because he has internalized all of David Fields' lessons. And it's funny because, you know, Marcus is like, why do they call it a Pope's nose? And Keller had told this big, long history and a story of the Pope's nose. And Carmy just goes, doesn't it kind of look like a Pope's nose? Like, he hasn't internalized what Keller has to say. He's internalized all of this other shit. And I think he's made him a great technician. I think Fields is the reason why Carmy has nothing to say. Because he's so scared. He's scared to say anything.
In a spinoff, it would be a fucking awesome series to have the David Fields, you know?
Yeah.
Like The Crow. The Raven.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know, but yeah.
It's a crazy character.
It's a crazy character. It is. This is where it's hard because I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I'm gonna lie, I've been that guy. I publicly said I've been that motherfucker. Mm-hmm. I'm really good at being a motherfucker like that. Mm-hmm. But I didn't learn from him myself.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I take full ownership about that, but like, I'm not that guy now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like, it's quite possible Dave Fields isn't that person anymore either. Mm-hmm.
But he's not gonna be confronted at the pisser and be like, listen, man, I've been doing a lot of work. And she's just gonna be like, did it fucking work? Did it fucking work or not? You know? And I've had that exact conversation with people, and it's just like, shit, that didn't go how I wanted to go. So
that was my I'm sure the counterintuitive opinion about David Fields, which is harder, I think, for me and some chefs. I do think he is a lot like a couple chefs. Mm-hmm. There's like, for sure. It was cool to see, going back to Danielle, it was cool to see Danielle. Like, I wasn't anticipating that. Two things. I didn't even know Renee was in it, which was like, well, that's, you know, weird. Fine, weird, but it's like,
it's so weird.
It's so weird. And then they're like, oh, that hallway, I could remember the smell being, you know, in the Dynex group and like, you know, but it's cool. It's like to be able to learn that dish and that idea of legacy, that episode. But, you know, I wish there was a way to teach the audience, like, this isn't a significant dish. Mm-hmm. Sea bass and papillon. It was one of the first dishes he put on at Le Cirque. It's been, if you go to Danielle, it's always on the menu. And it's sheets of potato that's wrapped in, and some of the garnishes changes, but it's served with a Barolo sauce. It's, and I remember this from like back in the day. It's like it was inspired by Freddie Girardet, who was one time considered the greatest chef in the world, that gave that mantle to Joel Robuchon. And he was a chef in Switzerland, and he was a fucking technique, precision dude. And he made it with Rouget, and his was with like, it wasn't potato. Yeah, I think Ramsay stole his fucking dish, but not on Rouget, which is a red mullet. And then who's the fucking other one? Bocuse. Bocuse had with scales. Because Bocuse in general always has fish dishes that look like fish to some degree, whether it's in croûte or whatever. And it was shingled, but it was like Rouget. And like Danielle's like did his own version of it. So like when you see a dish like that and you think about the concept of the legacy, and I think that's one of the undercurrents of this episode is like the progeny that fucking comes out of kitchens. It's like, for somebody that's in the know, that's important. Boulud is teaching Carm, this is when cooking is time travel. Mm-hmm. If you make it this way, then it takes you all the way back to, you know, the late Bocuse, the late Freddie Girardet, and the foundations of modern French gastronomy. Mm-hmm. Like, that to me is where it's like a cool love letter, because this is also a love letter to chefs. And I was like, well, I like that. I could see that all. It was like watching a cooking channel for me, like the old school PBS, where what I wanted was just Danielle to talk 30 minutes about fucking making this dish.
Again, why we would make a bad version.
Yeah,
of the bear.
that's why.
It's really interesting. You're talking about legacy. There's an episode here called Legacy. It is about that, and I thought this season was more about, as an undercurrent, I feel like it's about filmmaking too. It's about other creative crafts. There's these there's that one episode that opens with like a documentary about magic, and a director that Richie likes, and I kept thinking about that and how hard it is for a chef. A chef's legacy, as they talk about in the show, is not the dish. The dish can't be, with very few exceptions, like the dish can't be your legacy because, Carmy's trying to serve a Béarnaise espuma, like a foam. And Sid says, what is this, 2014? Like, your dish can't be your legacy because it becomes outdated. And that's why a chef's job as an artist is so hard. You have to keep putting out work. A filmmaker, or what Storer has done with this series, like, your legacy gets to stand on its own, and it gets to be, kind of timeless. And it's really interesting how much this has been about. I think about TV writing. I'm me, like, I'm the type of person, you like to fly off the cuff. You like to just change it. Let's do it. Let's go. It's always got to be something new. Let's put the draft out there and see what happens. I have to sit there and think about, like, I like the idea of, like, perfecting something and then putting it out. And so, like, I think there's, like, that undercurrent of, like, what is your legacy and how do you make it last?
But that to me was like, if I was just observing, I'd be like, you're grasping for straws, dude. And, like, I've always used this example to me for whatever, because I loved MC Hammer so much as a kid. And then, I remember being like, what the hell is this West Coast thing? And even though I knew of NWA and everything, but then you saw it, like, thug rap became a thing, and MC Hammer started wearing, like...
Yeah. He stopped. He gave up the parachute pants and tried to look
hard.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, like, we're all guilty of it to some degree. And I was like, we've all, as chefs, like, you've been there where you're like, what are you trying to say, dude? Like, you're just making lamb chop and Béarnaise that was done in a espuma gun? Like, what are you in cooking school? Like, that's what that's Sid's response. Like,
yo, what is this?
What are you doing, dude? She's like, you're wearing clothes you're not supposed to be wearing.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. And yeah, he can do whatever he wants. That's why it's like, Carmy doesn't have his soul, man. He doesn't have heart.
Doesn't have heart, and it's interesting, right? Because, again, if he's chasing legacy through replication and technique, and his legacy truly would probably be Sid leaving and doing something.
I mean,
great.
if I was given the opportunity to do beef, I would change it so it doesn't look like a fine dining restaurant. I would probably lean into the fact that it looked the way it looked, but make it health code standard. I would bring in up-to-date equipment, and I would make sure it's a fully functioning great restaurant. But I wouldn't lose the soul of that place, especially since my dead brother's restaurant. And I would serve beef, and I would do all kinds of beef, right? But I'd also put in, a cannoli from Marcus. I'd put in a pasta dish from Sid, and it would just be on the fucking menu, and I would serve it like Justin serves at Anajack, just on a paper fucking plate, right? You want to be progressive? You want to be out of bounds thinking? That's more it than anything else, because it's like, I don't care about the constraints of, like, fine dining. I'm a fucking technician of the highest order, but I can do it all.
I have to think that that's where we're headed with this show.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. I don't think, in real life, that doesn't happen.
I know the show has sort of, has fetishized or celebrated the Keller style and all of these things, but knowing, like, the things that, like, Storer loves, though, shit that has personality and voice, I can't imagine he's not going to instill that here. Whether it's through Carmy or Marcus or Sid, one of these three is going to do the thing that is like, listen, it's not I'm not chasing Michelin stars. I'm chasing, like, having something to say.
Carmichael Pauly said it best. He's like, we're going to cook food the way we cook food, not on other people's terms. And I can't stress that enough for, like, younger chefs. that are trying to express themselves. It's like,
Yeah.
don't do it in a platform that is tried and true by somebody else. There's other ways. It doesn't have to be the food that you can shake shit up with. And I would never have gotten rid of the video games.
Yeah. I mean, the coolest thing about this restaurant is that they are still serving beefs out of a window.
You know what? You know me. You know what I would have done? For sure, I would have done. This is how I think. Yeah. If you want to fucking know how stupid I am, unequivocally, this is what I think. I would have had beef. I would have had old school beef. I would have new school beef, and I would limit run like some stupid fucking version that's very luxurious, that's not on the menu. I would have the cannoli. I'd have a couple desserts, a donut. I'd have some of the shit that Tina likes, some stuff from fucking Haiti, whatever. Like it's a hodgepodge of everything. So it's like, how would the food that they want be translated to the beef as a sandwich and some of the things that accompany that? I would also have some weird things that were like highly constructed dishes that would be done on a fucking paper plate. To me, that dichotomy is the most fucking amazing. You'd be like, wait, you're just, what? You're giving me a torchon of foie gras and it's on a fucking paper Dixie plate? What?
It's turning your perceived weaknesses into strengths.
100%. And this is how I know I would do. Whatever, I would come up with, work on some special that is unequivocally delicious, whatever it might be. Let's just say it's whatever. Let's just say it's fucking Sid's potato chip omelet thing, but this time I'd put like a shit ton of caviar in it. Something to make it absurd. I would say, what was the video game? Ball Buster. I'd get rid of all the other video games. Ball Buster would be right there in the center. I'd say you can only get this if you get the high score. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. You know I would do that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I would want people to be like, what? You can't get it. You can get it, but you got to fucking play this goddamn game.
Yeah. I think there's I mean, you don't think so. I think he's laying the breadcrumbs. I think the fact that he rejected that spaghetti right off the bat from the very first season and is now serving...
that's it. Just serve spaghetti. Serve the best fucking spaghetti in the world.
But instead he's just serving these kind of like soulless remixed cavatelli, gnocchi, raviolo. It's just like, all right, the fucking spaghetti was the best looking thing that you guys served. Like, that looks dope as hell.
Or just thing. Like his version of the beef.
Exactly.
You know, like that mirepoix soup, and I just say this, he makes this fucking mirepoix soup, and I wanted to fucking take a spoon and take out my eyeballs.
Although, the funniest shit I've ever seen, Maddie's supposed to be serving the mirepoix soup.
Maddie's so good in this.
He comes out with the soup and he goes, I pour it in front of you. And he takes it back to the kitchen. It's like some of the funniest shit I've ever seen.
So man. Good.
I pour it in front of you. Enjoy.
I mean, Will joined this season as a producer because there's so much more front of the house elements, and it clearly shows.
It's so fucking funny, man.
Let's take one more break, and then we're gonna get into. And I know we missed a bunch of shit, but we were supposed to do another podcast today, and we blew past. My favorite episode is the cost analysis one.
With
computer. With my good friend Brian Koppelman. This is what's so hard for me. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, Mulaney's on. Like, I was like, what is going on here?
It's very strange.
It's so strange.
Yeah. But Koppelman, by the way, like, knows what's up. Just he's not randomly in here. Dude knows food.
I mean, so this is where I'm forensic analysis. I spent some good time trying to figure it all out. Because at the end of the day, the fact that Carmy doesn't give a shit about the finances means he's a total piece of shit. No. Marco Pierre White, whether you love him or hate him, I fucking love him, clearly. And guess I'm a fucking chef, bro. But in White Heat, his fucking amazing book, there's a line like, you can cook all the food. I'm paraphrasing. If you can cook the best food in the fucking world, but if you can't pay the bills, you're a sack of shit. Full stop. You know? Carmy's ego is so out of control that he's buying $12,000 worth of butter. I'm like, no.
I have a bill in my hands for $11,268 for butter. Buddy, what is it? The fucking rare Transylvanian five-titted goat?
At one point, you can get there. This is a video game, man. Going back to Ball Buster, maybe that is the analogy. Like, you got to level up and level up, level up. This guy just wants to go the best of the best right away. Like, It could have been Bordier butter for all you know. It's like, no, you're not. You guys aren't good enough. You're not good enough yet to get the best of the best. One day you will, but not fucking now. And you can't buy a star. You can't. You can't buy approval. It's just not going to work. Look at a sports team that tries to buy all the free agents. It's just like, it doesn't really work. You'd have to have the DNA instilled. And I was just sort of like, I get it. We have a lot of friends that are like this, chef. I'm also, you seen me have arguments with them being like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm the computer to them, you know? And I just was like, I understand it's a TV show, but like, man, I hope that if there's anything to be learned, if you're a cook or you're trying to open up your own restaurant, you not only have to be Carm, not only have to be Marcus, not only have to be Cicero, you not only have to know Richie's fucking roles, you got to be the fucking computer too. You have to. It is the most fucking important role. And Carmy don't give a fuck.
Well, it's the most selfish thing. The most selfish thing to be like, listen, that's not my business. I'm here to do the food. Because if it all, like to your point, if you can't pay the bills, then none of these fucking people get to work here. Like it's the most selfish thing.
So I spent a lot of time last night trying to figure out, give or take, about what the fill in the blanks might be here. How many seats do you think this restaurant has? I think on average, I think it's probably like 2750, so almost 2,800 square feet. That's what I think, right? I think the kitchen's around 1,000 square feet, maybe 1,100 square feet. You got another 300 square feet that's bathroom and locker room. Downstairs, you have that small basement that's probably not part of the retail footprint of the. So I think it's probably like 150 square feet that has the boiler and shit. So that leaves like, I would say like close to 1,700 for the dining room.
Okay.
I think you have 4 seats at the bar. I think I counted roughly, 8 to 10 tables. So anywhere could be, if you fucking crammed it in, you get up to 60. Yeah. Cram it in, 60.
I was going to say between 45 and 60 seats.
I think it's closer to 40.
Yeah.
And I would want it, if I'm just opening up, it's not about, you're going to lose money the first few months you're open. You just want to slow your burn. And then again, video game level it up. So it's like, okay, what can my team handle in terms of covers? What can the service staff handle in terms of covers? And the fact that he doesn't know the fucking menus is like, come on, dude. Like, in terms of like, again, I'm going to a sports analogy. Sorry for all the sports analogies. Just trying to make it so people might have a better understanding. It would be like a new coach instituting the most complicated offense with a team that can't execute. It's like, that's just super selfish. So I think it's probably closer to 45 covers. 50,
2.5 turns.
2.5. No, they're not at 2.5 turns yet.
They try to add the 9:30 turn,
which again,
half turn.
Restaurants, you want to be busy at 5 o'clock, and you want to be busy at the last turn because those are your money making periods. If you're not busy, you have to be busy at 7 o'clock when everybody wants to eat. So the 0.5 turn, that's the fucking money, right? So I think on average, give or take, throughout the week, Friday's busier than a Tuesday, whatever, and clearly it's busy and it's packed. I think they're doing on 100 covers a day.
I would say that's right.
On average. We know that the check average is $175. I think on average,
is that what the menu is? I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think on average, a really ambitious, best-in-class beverage program might be like $100 check average for beverage. No, they're not.
We've heard nothing of the beverage service. We've seen Gary struggling.
Richie says the Richie Betts is the best. Yeah, there's shout outs, but I think just on the number, it's probably a $50 check average.
Okay.
For beverage.
Okay.
Also, yeah, if it was badass wine program, $100, maybe more. It's not.
What is it? Sorry, just as a quick digression. When computer says you're at 47% on wine,
which is fucking a lot, which is fucking crazy.
Meaning what exactly?
Of their beverage sales, 47% is cost. You want it, I don't know, closer to like 30%. I don't know off the top of my head. It changes with the kind of restaurant, but it's like.
So you want like 70%.
You want it as low as humanly possible.
Right.
You know, it's like, so like for a bottle of wine that's $100, it costs them with everything $47.
Right.
When that should be pure profit for the most part.
Right.
When you'd want it to be 10%, 15%. So that means that's a big delta.
Which you've talked about in the past, by the way, is the only way restaurants could make money.
Correct. So I was just running some back of the napkin math to make it, because they're losing money. Right? So I think their burn rate per day is around $18,000 a day that they need to cover and clear. Right? So they need to cover, some days might be less, some days might be more, but either way, on average, you want to do around over $18,000. Okay. I'm making some assumptions here. One is they own the building.
Which they do,
but let's just say it's a mortgage, and let's just say they have like a 5% mortgage or whatever.
Sure.
But on top of it all, we know that they're paying a lien on money owed. So I think on average, you want 8 to 10% on average to be your real estate fees that you're paying per year. So that's done, right? So we know that real estate rent's probably around $380,000. I think labor is really high, especially when they're opening. And I think they have, what did I plot out for? Two dishwashers. They're only open 5 days a week. They have 2 dishwashers. They have 2 servers, 2 captains, and 2 back waiters. So that's 6 front of house. They have a hostess, and they just fired a reservationist, right? A host stand. So that's like 2 other people that I actually didn't include in my math, but whatever. And then you have Neil as sort of an assistant GM. You have a sommelier, and you have Richie. You have Carm, Sid, and you just start doing the salaries. Like, Carm's probably making 100,000 plus into some degree, and you go down and down. So minimum wage is like $17.
They say Sid is being offered 70.
Right. I think this often happens too in restaurants, and sometimes it sucks to be a manager, sous chef, because the line cooks will make more than you because of overtime. It sucks. Especially when you're handing out the paychecks and you're like, this person fucking made my week total shit, and they just made more money than me. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Right? Because of overtime.
Yeah.
So I think their labor on, just throwing it out there is 42%. Very high. Very, 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 very high.
Very high.
You want it to be around anywhere 30 and below, right? Can give or take. I think the food cost is at 45%.
Seems pretty rough.
45%.
Yeah.
You want it on a high-end, ambitious restaurant. It's not crazy to see 35, 38%. Anything over 40 is like fucking crazy. But you might make that up on beverage, right? So there's a give and take in terms of the ratios here. But you want it around 30%. The golden rule is you want 70% of your sales to be food, 30% in beverage and wine. That's a ratio that works. It can be 60-40, whatever, but in general. So it's like, you have rent and you have fixed costs, which are utilities. Flowers are expensive as fuck. I bet you they're spending $5,000 a month on flowers around. That adds up a lot. Your linens become more expensive, significantly so, because now you need better chef coats. Napkins are not your shitty ones, right? Everything gets significantly more expensive, the step up. So all in, I think that they're doing $225 person, 100 covers a day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, which means that their like total expenses, annual revenue is $585 million. $5,850,000.
I was like, fuck. That's a very successful restaurant. $600 million.
Their expenses is a little over $6.2 million. Which to me makes sense that they're losing close to $400,000, close to 7% in the red. All you need to, here's what people have a hard time understanding. All you need to do is like minus $10 in the red, because you got to pay your bills. And if you don't have money to pay your bills, you're fucked.
Yeah.
This is very hard. And the problem with restaurant industry, things are just like always variable.
Well, so let me ask you this. So that's about $7,500 a week that they're short in the red, basically, the math you just said, $400,000 a year. There's the 1 week they do well where Sugar's like, we're $5,000 short. We came up $5,000 short, basically. Contextualize that for people. $5,000 short. How hard is that to make up?
It's hard. That's a significant part of your fucking week, especially if like, what is that? I mean, probably like 6% of your weekly sales. Where are you going to get that money? You can't be like the U.S. government and just print more fucking money. Like people's livelihoods on the other end are from employees to vendors. Like you have to pay your shit. It's hard. Yeah. So like money is constantly coming in, and the whole idea of Cicero is like, we're so busy. Where the fuck the money's going? Again, the fact that they're buying stupid shit for R&D is like just fucking.
The R&D process Carmy is undergoing seems ludicrous.
So then the question then is, what if we do another turn and a half? So that gets you down 120. Actually, nothing really changes too much. You're still losing. You're losing like maybe like $70,000 less a year. The food cost taste like a restaurant like that, 28 to 35%. Some restaurants are higher, but those restaurants that have higher make it up on bev sales and shit like that. The beverage cost should be around 20 to 30%. Labor is 30% of your sales is usually your money sweet spot for labor, right? Anything more so every percent that goes up is around $60,000 in general sales.
Okay.
Right? Like that's a lot.
Yeah.
So like 5% profit gross sales is $300,000.
Yeah.
It's a fucking big thing.
Yeah.
Not including net and taxes. Some restaurants that are super ambitious are like 18, 20%. So you do 20% times 60. It's a lot of money.
So Dave, why don't you just raise the prices 10%?
Well, that's where the give and take is, right? So they need to, if they can do more covers, but at some point the scale is if they do more covers, the economy scales, so they're going to start making more money. Problem is it's a smaller restaurant, which is why there have been restaurateurs. One very, very famous restaurateur was like, I don't know why you fucking keep on opening small restaurants, Chang. Stephen Starr. The great Stephen Starr. And like to paraphrase, is like, dude, like, you're putting the same work as my Budokan, which is like 600 tables. I mean, 600 covers.
Yeah.
It's like 300-seat restaurant. You're like, fuck, you're right. That's where economies of scale matter.
Right.
Right? Because at some point, your kitchen can't get bigger.
Yeah.
And you're going to pump out this,
I have a suggestion for cutting food costs, Carmy. Why are there so many goddamn proteins on this menu? Every menu is like ribeye, lamb, duck. Like, come on, man. What are you doing?
If they reduce cost to something that's industry standard, that's $600,000 right there. So that's like literally, which is why the computer's like, what the fuck? It's pretty simple. Just get it down. Like it can happen. So if they don't make money, and this season is about like with a ticking time clock, I understand it's a show, but on practical level, if they can't turn this profitable, then Carmy's one of the worst chefs in the fucking history of the world.
If you're Cicero, are you cutting the cord or no, regardless of the review?
I don't know what the review is going to be, but it has to reinvent itself. It's not sustainable. Nobody's happy. The menu's shit. They also have to reduce labor. So the other things that happen are like, this is why no showing for a restaurant reservation for a table of 4 literally might be the make or break of profitability for the day or the week. And you add that up every day and people don't show up for 52 weeks a year. That is the difference, which is why we're talking about 6% profit here, right? 6% is $360,000. Now, if beverage sales, which are 30%, go down 10% because people are drinking less, or tariffs now because you're an Italian restaurant are now up 10 to 20%, where's the money coming from for that delta? Because now all of a sudden you're in fucking the red, which is why this is a fucking existential threat. The tariffs, the fucking lack of beverage sales, it does scare the shit out of me because we're talking about margins that were thin to begin with. Not every restaurant is healthy enough. There's some that if you can fucking dial it in, you have a cash cow. It's awesome. Very, very difficult to get to, right? Not everyone can be La Bernardin. So, I think raising the thing you can do, which is why the computer's like, we got to get our cost down to, I'm going to say 32%. If they just get it 35%, they're making money. They're naturally labor is going to come down, right? It just will. But then the question is, it gets more difficult because they're like, well, to make more money, because they're like, we can't figure out how to do 6%, but maybe the 6% on a bigger number allows us to make more money. They're capped at 6%. Maybe we do lunch. Maybe we do brunch. Maybe we open up 7 days a week. But that's problematic because now you have to get 2 staffs, right? AM, PMT, and also a bridge staff. It's a lot. And then your maintenance bills go up because you're using everything fucking more. Mm-hmm. This is the dumbest business in the world.
Well, I was going to say, I think the reason why there are so many fans of this show in the industry, meaning the restaurant industry, is because ostensibly, whether it's completely realistic or not, I can't imagine watching this show as a civilian and not having a little bit more sympathy for what a fucking restaurant has to go through.
Yeah. So listen, as the computer, I would say
the Chang pewter.
I could imagine a chef being like, no, I don't want to do fucking 100 turns a day, like 100 covers. So just for reference, like some of the very best restaurants have the luxury to just do 1 turn. That's the fucking dream. Mm-hmm. No matter how many fucking seats you are, you just 1 fucking turn. It's like, That's why I love working lunch, right? A long lunch is the best because you're only doing 1 turn for lunch. It's the best fucking service. Mm-hmm. I love it. New York City, to make money in New York City, which is why it's the hardest place. I don't give a fuck what anyone says about. It's hard in any city, no question about it. But there ain't no place like New York City. Sometimes you got to do 4 or 5 turns. Mm-hmm. You do more numbers and covers than any other city in the fucking world. And it is like a grind because everything's more expensive. So in a normal city, maybe like where they're at in Chicago, which is things are still expensive, but the 0.5 turn is where you can make money. Okay?
Yeah.
They're doing 2 turns. If they get food costs down, they're going to make a lot more money when they do 100 covers, so which is the
right.
2.5 turns. The 930 seating on.
Yeah.
In New York, location, expenses, everything's sometimes exponentially more expensive. You're not making money till you're doing 3.5. That 0.5 after a third turn.
Yuck.
So like, that's like mental. So imagine Cicero and like if this was shot in New York, he'll be like, yeah, we're only doing 3 turns. We need to do 0.5 more. Like, so we got to do 160.
Right.
What the fuck? So they're going to make money if they get food costs down to 35%, because Carmy, I would imagine that's the respectable compromise, and then get labor down to 30%. That's a net margin of 11%. That's a revenue of $7 million, and they're going to make $775,000. They're going to gross that. That's a net profit. So it's in his hands. Like, it's like, how big is your fucking ego?
Yeah.
And this is a question a lot of chefs have. I've struggled with it. I've seen this so many times. Like, there's something about being a chef and wanting to prove yourself and wanting to get the recognition and the awards and to be considered one of the greats. And the only way you feel like you can do that is by like doing the way it's always done and showing off, strutting, you're peacocking. Look how fucking awesome I am. I don't think that's ever going to change. It's just a matter of like how fast you can get out of that fucking stage of your life
to become sustainable.
Yeah.
And let this business last more than 9 months.
So now that was my analysis. Then when I looked at that, I was like, wow, Carmy's really out of control here. To have food costs around 45% probably is, which is like, are you fucking... It made me angry. I was like, oh, you fucking... I know it's just a fictitious show.
Well, for him to still be spending so much money on microgreens also. What the fuck, Carmy? What year is it?
So, anyway, I probably won't watch season 4 for 3 fucking years.
Stay tuned for our season 4 recap in 4 years.
This is why I didn't want to watch it, because it's like, it just takes so much mental thought now. I'm like, oh man, I just want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think one way to enjoy it is watching it with distance.
I think being able to pace it, as insane as it was to watch these 3 seasons this quickly, I don't know that I can watch this week over week. I don't think I can do it.
All right, let's take a break. We're going to get out of here quickly with an Ask Dave. Thanks for listening to our thoughts on Season 3 of The Bear. If you have a question or want us to cover a specific moment in Season 3 that we didn't touch on, let us know. Ask Dave at Majordomo.com. We'll try to talk about it later. And you can also send us questions to askdave at Majordomo.com. Remember, you can DM us as well on social media. Askdave at Majordomo.com. But you won't need to answer these questions. What's your name and city? What's your Majordomo cooking level? Number 3, what's the favorite thing you make as a food item? What's your bucket list restaurant or some best meal you've ever had? 5, what is your actual question? And we will choose a winner. I think we need to choose one this month for last month. We'll get to that. And ship you a prize. And you can always send us your favorite food moments to majorfoodporn.com. And before we get into the Ask Dave, Mr. Ying's Recipe Club, you want to talk quickly about that?
We are approaching the end of the season here for Recipe Club. We're going to take a little bit of a break after this next couple of episodes. But it's not going to be a typical Recipe Club style break where we break for 2 years or whatever. We have big plans. We have all sorts of things that we want to expand in the RCU, and we're going to get straight to it.
All right. Anthony sent us a question. Thank you, Anthony. I recently started watching The Bear after your previous podcast discussing it and had a question regarding kitchen structure. At the beginning, Carmy, wants to implement the French Brigade. That's a hierarchical structure where each chef has their own station, and they quickly realize that doesn't work for them. My question is, what other structures are there? I'll admit, I'm only a few episodes in, but this seems to be the most defined and organized way to run a kitchen without everyone stepping on each other's toes. Would love to hear from you on all other styles and ways to run a kitchen outside of the French Brigade that are structured and not pure chaos. Great question. Unfortunate truth is this. I think it's like democracy. It's the best of the worst. Mm-hmm. If you go to the kaiseki, independently organized and evolved. This is the way I always thought. Like kaiseki kitchens, which are much older and older than most countries, have a system that is eerily similar to a French Brigade system. Two completely different ways and sort of similar result. You need some organization and a hierarchy. There's just really no other way around it. And I would say that you can see other systems, which I'll get on to in a second, but it's hard to maintain consistency over time. You can have any system for 1 day, 2 weeks, maybe even a year, but it's hard to maintain,
Yeah, and I wanted to say, Anthony, you're they characterized the brigade as a hierarchical structure, which it is, where each chef has their own station. That's true, but the point of when Escoffier created the brigade system, it was because there was so much redundancy of labor. Everything was being made in a bubble.
And it's changed over the years for the other ways. I think this is probably the biggest significance, Anthony. There might be the brigade system in name only, but it's certainly evolved, right? There's some kitchens that have a more traditional style, and that might be, a lot of it, I would say, is based around, again, a sports analogy. It's like the quarterback you have. You might have a West Coast quarterback. You might have a dual threat quarterback. You sort of design it with what you have, and you design it around the oven that you have. If you have, like the Danielle kitchen has a beautiful Moltini range, and it's set up because it's a traditional brigade system where you're shoulder to shoulder cooking. And Chef de Partie is the boss. You're the boss. You're the manager of your own station and all the food that's coming off. You are the chef of that. And you have maybe one Chef de Partie or two Chef de Parties. Two commis, excuse me. And they're helping you. And giant kitchens are structured that way because that's just the way they were. And you would also have a coal runner, someone just to keep the fucking ovens warm. So a lot, in my opinion, a lot of the kitchen structure from the French system was designed and evolved over time around the oven. I think that at the end of the day, no matter what, a successful, and we're talking about successful kitchens, have some organization. They might be horizontally organized, but at some point you can't operate without some kind of mise en place and organization. Whatever the word might be in whatever country, it's like that's it. So, if you don't have an island, which is what a big kitchen range is, literally it's an island where everyone's cooking around it. That to me changes everything. Mm-hmm. So it's like you still might have a fish cook or a meat roast, but a lot now is more hybridized, I would say. So what needs to come out of the kitchen hasn't changed. The role names have changed and the responsibilities. So much like in basketball where it's sort of positionless, you might have now the hot and because of just the sort of labor issues, you might have the hot appetizer section is going to come off the fish station, or maybe all hot line items come off one person, right? All cold line items come off the chef who's by the pass, and you have the garde manger there. So a lot of it depends on the size of your kitchen, what you have available, and more often than not, you're seeing positions where it is positionless, where depending on the day and the day off, like today I'm working pastry, it's much more fluid, like many things are. And I think that's been certainly a benefit, but also been very bad because it's hard to go deeper into your sort of role. So there's no way you can operate a successful kitchen without some kind of structure.
Right.
It's just today, if you don't have an island, which many restaurants don't, and they may just have a stove, or maybe it's not gas, maybe it's all induction. At the end of the day, it's like you still have roles. Someone's going to have to make the hot food, someone's going to have to make the cold food, and so on and so forth. So it just doesn't have a name.
I was going to say, has there in 135, 140 years since Escoffier created the brigade system, there isn't, while there are hybrid forms and changes, nothing else there's no other name for a system that's emerged, right? There's no other what has created a different alternative. It's
is there a company that's successful in the world today, let's say publicly traded, that doesn't have a CEO? Like even the Green Bay Packers, a lot of sports references today, it's the only team that doesn't have a single ownership. It is divided amongst the community, so everyone has one share. So the community of Green Bay actually owns the Packers, but they still have a CEO, right? That is representative of basically the union of, the voters. You can't. There is no way you can operate without anybody. And yeah, I've seen it over time where it's like nobody has a role. It's like, well, you're going to go out of business. It's like,
everybody just make food on your own time. Make whatever you want and bring it up to the past when it's ready.
I think things are going to change. We should talk about AI and robots. I think that's going to be the next significant change, because whatever we covered 5 years ago, that's not even fucking in the wheelhouse anymore.
I know, it's crazy.
It rapidly headed towards automation in kitchens, for sure. So that's a whole nother topic. Anyway.
Thanks, Anthony, for your question.
Give us 5 stars. Thank you for all of your help. And talk to you guys later.